Okay, so if we're getting into a relationship, right, if we're marrying to create a new home, a different snow globe, which in essence, unless we do the work, is the same one, where did this origin start? Where did this come from? Okay, so we know that from zero, we're going to start from the system. Where's my... Just a brief for those of you who don't know the story, how the subconscious develops. The snow globe just shattered with that. Okay. I can find a meaning in anything. We come from wholeness. When your mother and your father together, egg, sperm, they make you. Okay? You, if you believe in that, come from wholeness, heaven, Uranus, chaos, undifferentiated consciousness, Brahma, whatever you believe in, fine with me. You had a crack in your egg when you inhabited this physical form and you made the decision to incarnate. Okay? Subconscious was formed. Pregnancy, pregnancy, birth story, 0 to 7. Okay? Everyone agree with that? Can buy into that for just today. Okay? So, here are your parents. The egg and the sperm. And I don't care if you're born in a petri dish, you need an egg and a sperm. We can agree on that? We all have masculine and feminine energy. We all have a mother and a father. The root of the model makes sense, right? We could confirm this. What happened? Your parents meet on some sort of fantasy, some love story, some Hallmark, and they have you. When they have you, you're a limitation because you came from this and you're a piece of them, right? I should start with Uranus, actually. Uranus is the undifferentiated consciousness. Then the fantasy, and then you're the limitation. Why do I say that your needs were not met? Why do I say that you need to go into your marriage or your relationship to try and get your needs met? Your parents were not perfect. Your parents were children. The state of their subconscious mind was limited. They had pajaritos en la cabeza, or as my dear friend Adriana says, cabeza fresca. Your parents were living in La La Land. I was living in La La Land. You were living in La La Land. When we were kids, we were children. Because we're repeating patterns, my needs were not met, so my children came to meet my needs, and your needs were not met, so your children, and it's like just this repetition, okay? So the child is the adult, and the adult is the child. Okay, anyone see Benjamin Button? What happens? Benjamin Button is young and then he turns old, or no, he's old and then he turns young. That's us. That's our healing, or attempt to heal. We were born old and we're trying to be children, and we show up as children with unmet needs in our relationships. Okay, so your parents are children. I have a very simple theory. Do your work so your children don't have to do it for you, people. It's that simple. I did not know. I was an animal. I destroyed my kids. I built them on such a fucked up mental platform, and needless to say their father, which I can't even say needless to say their father, because if my theory is right, we were both the same pea-brain dumbass. So lucky my children and have these clowns of a parents now have forced to be adult, and they had to grow up early because we got divorced when they were 2 and 3 years old. And some of us reach this adulthood early, some of us don't. I told you earlier I was going to tell you about the innocence and why innocence shows up as Hephaestus, as the snow globe in our marriage. If you are forced to grow up early, as every single child is, because you're there to meet your parents' needs, what is the counteraction to that? What's the other side of the coin? Stay a child forever. Innocent. Oh my God, I'm so pure. I'm so innocent. Innocence is a metaphor. You could Snow White, who's really innocent, can be innocent for not blooming sexually or not choosing to bloom sexually. It could be a metaphor for addictions. It could be a metaphor for codependence. These are all words that represent Neptune. So when you have a client that's got addiction, that's got codependent, that has innocence like I did, I didn't want to have my license, I didn't want to grow up, doesn't want to penetrate the partner or be penetrated, they're trying to conserve their innocence. The poison apple is the Aries, the poison apple is the shadow. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to crack in my snow globe. I want to maintain it perfectly. Mediator, victim, rescue, all of these words. If you have clients that show up with those sort of themes, they are trying to keep their innocence, not grow into the adult because they've already lived too much adult. You're going to see this in practice over and over and over again. So I was definitely the quintessential, not only am I Pisces that represents Neptune, I was the quintessential innocence. I was literally raped and taken out of my snow globe and forced to marry this older man and give him children. I mean, I lived out this myth, so I didn't want to grow up. What that does is fuck up your kids. If you don't do your work, your kids are forced to do it for you. Then they're not allowed to live out why they came, their soul's journey, or whatever the hell you want to call it, their purpose. They're not allowed to be the sun in their life, in their solar system, because they're too busy carrying your bullshit job. This is a symbol of Saturn, of adulting. It's not an accident that my book is child, teenage, adult. I am just now starting to adult. I don't pretend that I've done this and know this, but I'm trying. And I tell my children I will spend my life making it up to you because I will do my work so that you don't have to. I don't give 2 cents that their father will do theirs, so they'll have to do half of his work and then their work from their soul's journey. Make it a little easier on them and at least do your adulting, people. Do your work so your kids don't have to do it for you. Let them have a little bit of innocence. Let them reclaim their childhood. That's why we get into relationships. To try to reclaim our childhood, to try to reclaim fantasy, to try to reclaim innocence. Because every single one of us was thrown out of Olympus, thrown out of heaven, thrown out of the Garden of Eden. Pick your poison, I don't care. From chaos, you turned into a limitation of your body. There is an exchange of sort of universality or wholeness, which is why I use that in the model, the wholeness that was then limited or castrated. Greek mythology uses the word castrated, and I like that word. That's the crack in the snow globe. Where were you castrated? Well, immediately you were castrated the minute that your parents decided to have you. Your parents were children that were looking for an adult to meet their needs. Don't repeat their same patterns and make you're already symbolically going to make your children meet your needs, but you're all listening to this. So it's never too late to start right now. I started at 42. Late? Yeah, but better than starting at 70. Do your work so your kids don't have to. Turn back the clock. Be the adult and show up so your kid can be a kid. In your relationship is the opportunity for you to show up like the adult for yourself, to integrate those pieces that were kicked out of Olympus. That shadow. When you model this for your children, you give your child permission to do the same. I'm going to be doing this post-it note spirituality because people are so confused as to what spirituality is. And I'm going to kind of give you a little synopsis in one sentence, or a few sentences, because I can never say anything in one sentence. It's adulting. Spirituality is adulting. That's the sentence. Now let me explain why. Little taste. First of all, the symbol for the adult is Saturn. Saturn in alchemy, which is another spiritual practice, is the idea of turning lead into gold, low consciousness to high consciousness, repeating a cycle over and over and over and over and over again until you get the lesson. So I might have not gotten the lesson till 42. What is this affording my children to get the lesson at 21? And maybe their kid will learn it by 3. That's how we erase transgenerational trauma. That's how we stop repeating the sins of the father. So big deal, I learned it at 42, and I'm still applying it. My client that learned it at 70, well, her grown adult children will get the benefit. And then that child has a 15-year-old. That child will learn at 15. And we're just diluting the pain. Saturn is pain. Spirituality, humanness is pain and suffering and limitation. Buddha Principle 101. That's what his father was shielding him from. Buddha's father kept him in the palace with all the riches and everything that he ever wanted, and then he got a peek of the outside world and saw poverty and death and pain and suffering, and it said, oh shit, talk about snow globe having a shatter. So we keep trying to put ourselves back into the snow globe and not feel the pain and suffering, and that's why this is addiction. Because adulthood is painful. Growing up is painful. But you know what's so beautiful about adulthood? I can finally like understand and integrate, and why I'm enjoying the alarm clock as the mistress in my relationship is because I have agency. I now get to ask you for what I need. I get to meet my own needs. I get to really be on a spiritual journey. Not spirituality, because this is also the symbol for spirituality. The way I was 5 years ago, check the fuck out. I floated and was talking to spirit all day, but I wasn't in the world. Now I live in the world in my body. This is a symbol of the body. This is a symbol of the world. This is a symbol of adult. This is a symbol of pain and suffering. And I embrace it. I understand spiritually that pain and suffering is part of the human experience. But I'm making a choice to show up as a higher consciousness, that Aries doesn't have to own me. I am an animal at heart. I am angry. I have a short temper. That's the low-level piranha showing up. I get to choose to show up as a dolphin. Fight for a student if I have a cause. Fight for a client if I have a cause. Show up with a volition of creating something, putting out a book, putting out a product, putting out anything. That's me having agency, and you only have that as an adult. You do not have that as a child. That's why I was able to be given over to the cult leader's son to give him children, because I was a child. So like Snow White, here's the poison apple, eat it. The witch at my door, and I opened up the door for him. That's true spirituality. I'm going to tell you one more thing before I wrap up. There's a great book that I absolutely love. It's by Alice Bailey, and it's The Labors of Hercules. In The Labors of Hercules, she talks about Capricorn as a myth and the symbolism of it. It is believed that spiritual aspirants, so people that are on a spiritual journey, it's a very lonely journey. Yesterday, I had a client that lost her boyfriend of a year to COVID. And she's been a student of mine for 10 years. And she's like, I'm in a lot of pain. She lost the snow globe. She lost her love. She's like, do you have any words of wisdom? This is also grief. This is a symbol of grief and pain and suffering. Adulting sucks, right? That's what we've been sold. And I said to her, and she's a spiritual aspirant, she's on the spiritual path. And I said, you know what? The spiritual journey, as Alice Bailey writes and many spiritual thought leaders say, very lonely process. But the beauty of adulting, the beauty of the loneliness, the beauty of the journey is the human connection that you make with others on that same path. And I said, let me witness your grief for you. Let me be that human connection. That's the third chakra to the fourth chakra. You can't do that as a child. You don't have permission. But when you show up for yourself as an adult, meet your needs, work your third chakra, your self-love, it's lonely. The third chakra is called the Manipura chakra. It is the crown of jewels. And I tell people it's the chakra of the eye. No one else is allowed in there. It's a lonely path. But from that self-love, from integrating that mistress, that erotic love, the passionate love, the romantic love, you then learn agape love. Then you could be a witness and empathic and validating and kind to someone else. And it's like a feedback loop of the third chakra to the fourth, third to the fourth. I cannot fight for you if I haven't fought for me. I can't witness your grief until I went into my depression, integrated my shadow, and witnessed my own grief. That's why the spiritual journey is so lonely. And it's equivalent in my language to adulting. If one sentence, spiritual path is adulthood. But you get to own your pain and suffering. You get to own your adulting. Our parents showed us it's bills, it's stress, it's fighting, it's, oh my God, the car payment. That's why no one wants to grow up. And that's why we all want to be in the snow globe. But if someone explains it to you, you're going to have responsibility, but you're going to have agency. You're going to have permission to meet your own needs. To hell, eat cookies at fucking 3 a.m. Then you're like, damn, I like this. But we're sold this idea of being an adult as so painful. And I'm not minimizing. It is. There's pain and suffering. I can't take that away from you. But I'm an adult and you're an adult in a relationship. Damn, I can witness this grief for you. I can hold this space for you so that you can have a temper tantrum, so you can be a child, so you can cry because your father just died. That's a really special place to be, rather than two children trying to get their needs met, not knowing how to ask, having temper tantrums, going to drink, going to fuck. Who the hell wants that? Of course marriage is freaking a life sentence, as we hear in mythology. But when it's presented to you as adult, meaning adult, both people getting their needs met, wow, people witnessing each other's pain and grief and holding the space, it's a really different road. That's the Heros Gamos that you get to if you are in a relationship and do the work. You become whole, they become whole, the we get strong, the thread is honored. It's a really beautiful process. Everyone integrates their mistress, everyone gets romance and passion, and you get self-love, and you love your children and the community. It's a fucking win-win. But we don't do the work, and that's another word for Saturn. It's limitation, it's adult, it's work, it's pain, it's suffering, it's aging. It's true, but it's agency, and it's owning it. And that's why the alchemists were so smart to say lead to gold, because it's only through aging, through learning, just because you're old. There's a saying, el diablo sabe más por viejo que por diablo. The devil knows more because he's old than because he's the devil. Your kids are sometimes like, how the hell did she know I was lying? Just because you're old, because you already did it, because you already lied to your parents and snuck out. That's how you know, right? We're living a cycle and a cycle and a cycle and a cycle, pattern after pattern, the same story. My client this morning, 70-something years old, this is the same story from when you were in your 20s. Nothing changes. You're built on one myth, on one origin story. Really not that complicated, people. This is actually pretty easy once you break it down to the single bits. And it's the alchemical process that you start with a low level of consciousness, but every time you cycle and recycle that same story, you eventually go, oh, that's what I've been doing wrong. Now you're at the dolphin and not the piranha. That's how we gain consciousness. That's spirituality. But we can learn it easier. We can get obstacles out of our kids' way and out of our own way if we understand it. So spirituality in a nutshell is adulting. Welcome to the dark side. It's really great over here. Never thought I'd say those words. Any questions? Okay.